In my previous scale mail weaving frame video, I mentioned that there are ways you could modify it to make it even stronger, if, like me, you're going to be working on very large pieces of scale mail. Essentially, we're going to add a metal A-frame to the weaving frame, which will add a whole load of rigidity, especially to that backward and forward. It won't do much for left to right, but typically speaking, you're going to be working forward and backward as you're weaving the scales in and out. Let's get started. It's a very simple modification, and you only need the most modest of tools to complete it. Here's the basic gist of the plan. We're going to reinforce the vertical section with just an A-frame. It's going to be made out of metal, probably aluminium or steel. It has 3 points of interest: a central hole for the dowel in the center, and then 2 semicircles which will clip onto either side of the frame base. For the frame reinforcement, we're simply going to be using 2 pieces of aluminium. It's rigid enough that it will hold the vertical poles straight, and at the same time flexible enough that we can actually work with it and bend it. Each of these aluminium plates is 1 meter long, so we just need to mark down 3 things: our center, and then 1 centimeter from each end. Then we can take our set square and complete the lines. The next step is to add our horizontal line. Now each of these should be 25 millimeters, which it is. So we just need to mark off a 12.5. Because this piece is designed to slot over the existing pipe connectors, this end needs to be slightly wider than 15 millimeters so that it can get onto the joint. So what I've got here is a little square cutout. I'm going to drill a hole through and then saw into the metal, file it down, and we'll have this nice slot that can go right onto the pipe. Now we've marked the holes, we can go ahead and drill them. Here you can see I've marked out one of the 4 end pieces, and all these are exactly the same. We're just going to cut down each of the line, cut in some diagonal crosses, then we'll file out the rest. Do the same for all 4 sides. The final step of this process requires us to bend the metal to certain specific angles, which I have pre-calculated out using the hypotenuse, etc. math, boring stuff. I'm going to be using 4 sections of this piece of wood, which you can see I've already marked out one particular piece to be the bending bit. It's quite simple. 1/2 is clamped between 2 of these, and the other half is clamped between 2 of these, with the relevant angle pointing down. At which point, when you bend it, it'll bend perfectly to that angle. There's a final vital step to perform before I finish these off with a bit of paint, and that's to test fit it, just in case I paint it and it turns out not to fit. Alright, it's time to finish this. Pop these off again. And 1. And a 2. And a 2. Pop this back out. And tighten. There. Infinitely more rigid. Perfect for when you're working on those larger frames. It doesn't do anything for the side to side really, but side to side wobble, there's not much there to speak of. So there we go. That's a far more reinforced scale mail weaving frame, especially when I'm going to be working on such large pieces of scale mail in the very near future. But until then, I'm Raven, and that's all from the lair.